Absolutely. And since then, I've become so in tune with my body that things that are less powerful than caffeine or alcohol, I can feel them in my body and when my body wants them and when it doesn't. And I can actually make decisions based on really what my body is asking for. And it's amazing.
Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the Mastering Mindfulness Institute. This is where we dive so much deeper than just dieting. We really believe that your true health is really about the relationship with yourself and how to access your own inner power. And today we're going to talk about how to get off of those seasonal on and off dieting patterns that a lot of people struggle with. And today I'm so excited for this conversation because I talk a lot about strategies, but I think what is so much more powerful than just talking about strategy is real human beings who go through this journey of their own personal transformation and discovering really what health means to them. And so today I'm so excited for this conversation because one, there's a real human being who's going to share the ins and outs of his journey, but also it's my dad who is a student of Mastering Mindfulness, and all the time he keeps sharing with me about his experience and how it's lasted and made such a big difference in his life. So, Dad, thank you for being here.
Thanks. It's my pleasure.
So, you had quite an experience doing Mastering Mindfulness, and I'm just curious, like, if you could give one shift that you had that was like a big shift that maybe you didn't expect.
Yeah, I think early on it was a minor shift early on in the program, but it was actually monitoring my caffeine and my coffee consumption that I didn't know until I actually started checking in on it. Was just mindless sipping coffee in the morning while I would be doing paperwork and computer things going on, and I could drink 4 to 5 cups of coffee and realize that I was just almost entirely wigged out to the point with the caffeine that I was dysfunctional instead of more functional. Mm-hmm. And I think learning that the first shift was to check in with that and realize that actually check in with how the caffeine was reacting in my body, how I felt in the morning, and when like, oh, that's good. Like, okay, I'm at a great place with that. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely want to circle back around to that and talk about that more because you started taking a different approach. You were looking at your caffeine consumption, and it's so interesting because I remember before, and you said, I want to join Mastering Mindfulness, and I was like, you do? Why do you want to join Mastering Mindfulness? And what was your answer? Why did you want to join Mastering Mindfulness?
Well, I'm going to start with something how you've always described me. You're always like, this is my healthy-ish dad. So I think my workouts were always on par, and my eating was pretty, borderline. It was pretty healthy for the most part, not over the top bad, but pretty good. But I thought, wow, if I get in Mastering Mindfulness, I can just trim up just a little bit more and be like, just exactly where I want to be, like just to put me over the edge of really in shape, So I had this idea of what that was going to look like.
Well, what you had said to me was that, I just want to dial it in more, get healthier. But you said, just don't take away my coffee. Don't tell me not to drink coffee. And I was like, okay, in this program, I don't give food rules. I don't tell you what to eat or drink. And you're like, great, I just don't want to give up coffee. I said, great. And then what you started doing was checking in with your body. I was like, how does your body feel? And then that's how you started noticing, oh my gosh, my body is tweaking out on caffeine that you hadn't realized. So a totally different strategy by just checking in with your body. And how did that transpire, with the coffee?
I mean, it was a complete transformation, so many more ways than just coffee. But that was the first one that I really recognized that I would check in, and generally after between 1 and 2 cups, I really felt good, but I also didn't restrict it. I left the option open that at the end of the day or mid-afternoon, if I wanted some more coffee, that was great, that I just wasn't going to do it mindlessly. And I just wasn't going to let my mind go, let's have another one, let's have another one, let's have another one, and run away with it to the point where it just wasn't good for me.
Yeah. And I think that really captures the core of what we're doing here with every little thing is that it's not about giving a food rule. What happens, right? When we're like, I can't have this. And when you give yourself a food rule, it feels like you're in this willpower fight. But then to slowly practice with one food at a time, like you did, just tuning in, how does it make me feel? And then you're eating based on how it optimally feels in your body versus just having a rule.
Absolutely. And since then, I've become so in tune with my body that things that are less powerful than caffeine or alcohol, I can feel them in my body and when my body wants them and when it doesn't. And I can actually make decisions based on really what my body is asking for. And it's amazing.
So I want to rewind too. That's awesome. I want to rewind to like before. What was your experience of like health or with food, or what was that like before? Take us back.
So I guess before joining the program at all, I mean, I had insights from you about, one thing that was really powerful for me is like, Dad, you don't got to give everything up at once. Like pick one thing that is not so residing, in your body. So dairy was kind of an easy one for me. Dairy, milk, and some other stuff with cheese was pretty easy. But my relationship with myself and food was going into September, just about this time of year, I would be in great shape, right around 180 pounds. And I would go into my birthday and have this spectacular overindulgence of whatever I wanted to eat. And then, the Michigan cider mills would be sugar donuts and cider. And so indulging in that too much, falling right into Thanksgiving and then Halloween. And that would just take me into the holidays on a really bad binge of bad eating and sugars and all kinds of things, too much drinking. And so by March, I would get on the scale and I would literally every year be 20 pounds to 25 pounds heavier than I was in September. I would weigh in at 200, 210. And then I would high protein diet as long as I could do it, work out, just unbelievable workouts in the boxing gym or whatever I was doing at the time. And by September, I would burn that weight off and I would be somewhere 180 to 185 again. And it was a cycle every year. And when you were speaking on one of your, I can't remember what type of podcast it was, but you were speaking and it was directly to me. It was, do you have a lousy relationship with food? Do you binge and then go on an unsustainable diet? She's talking to me. So at that point is when I realized that I was doing that, but that was earlier in the spring. But I was in the middle of kind of in one of those in-shape deals. We're in, the summer when I joined the program in Mastering Mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I was in a good spot.
I remember that too. Like we just didn't know anything else was really possible. So I remember just kind of as like a family, we did what we thought was the best that we could. We wanted to indulge and live life. But then I remember us all getting excited for like vacations. And then we had to like mount all this motivation and like work really hard and hold each other accountable and say, what are we going to do? What are we going to eat? And we have to mount all this like motivation. But all that we really knew was like these push, pull, or on, off, or like do really, really well and then like overindulge and binge. And how did that experience feel to you internally versus like, I guess I wouldn't have known any different then, but I can feel internally how that experience feels different now. How did that feel to you?
At the time, I do believe it was what we knew, so we did it, and we got fired up to go on the diets and get in shape for a vacation, whatever that was like, and really push. But then to get at past post-vacation and kind of fall apart on the entire thing and not be as healthy, it just felt like my routine at the time. Honestly, I didn't know anything different. And now, just being in a healthy, consistent state is just amazing. It just feels amazing, and it's not out of willpower. It's not of a diet that's not sustainable. It's just a way of living.
That you eat healthier now?
I do. But it's not just the nutrition points that you've given me and things like that. It is the relationship with my body and checking in with my body and actually feeling like right now what it wants. When it wants veggies and protein, I give it veggies and protein.
And I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, like, what does that mean? Like the relationship with my body, like, what does that look like for you?
Well, like one of the things that we have gone through in the mindfulness program is the conquering cravings.
Yeah.
So I can specifically remember a time where Chris and I were driving across the country. I have zero thoughts of ice cream in my head whatsoever. And we go by a Wendy's billboard with a Frosty in it. And I'm immediately wanting an ice cream and a Frosty. So I know there's a Wendy's coming up. And so I actually first deciphered that it is a craving through how we're taught to do that. Okay, I'm not really hungry. This is a craving. And then actually how to work through it. By the time we got to the exit and actually pulled in the drive-thru, I ordered a chicken salad. True story.
And how did that feel?
In the middle of Wyoming. It felt amazing because I was like, I gave myself the option that, okay, if this really isn't a craving, I'm really feeling ice cream later on, it'll be there. I can still go to it later on. But if it's just a craving and I actually want to be mindful about it, then, which it was, and when I checked in my body wanted a salad that day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was able to actually just eat healthier.
So in the past, I remember we would maybe do like a program or something like that, or try to give ourselves guidelines. Do you give yourself like any rules or guidelines or anything like that? How does that compare from the past to now?
I wouldn't say guidelines. I would say I'm just aware if I start to eat too much sugar and I start to feel those cravings come on, like that addiction starts, I would say I'm aware of it and I just take the steps to actually maintain it and shift with it in a different way, like that I care about my body. It's not a willpower. It's a, do I want this today or not? And I'll go through processes on where if there's a couple of days I do want ice cream, so I'm going to go have some. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, how do you think that has affected, or I don't want to say affected, but like, how would you say that has like your experience of that, like when your experience with your food choices, like how do you feel like it's different, your experience of like choosing to be healthy? Because you did go through times of being healthy before, mm-hmm. and you are now, and so you had, but like what is that experience like that's different?
I would say the old energy with it would come with determination and just a bunch of willpower and getting fired up as long as I could stay fired up and keep that momentum going. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't really about being healthy. It was just about appearance. It was about, okay, I'm going to drop this weight and get back in shape. There really wasn't a health motivator behind it for me, where now it's more love for my body and just wanting to really feed my body what it's asking for, like to listen to it and give it what it's asking for. And when we can bypass this a little bit and slow down and check in, then it's so powerful that your body will let you know, like, hey, this is what I want. And sometimes it does want a treat. That's okay. I still eat treats.
Yeah, totally.
I still eat treats.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I have found that before, when we were on that cycle of like the motivation and then binge over holidays experience, I found that I was very restrictive with my eating when I was trying to eat well. But because I was like restrictive, I was like holding on and like really trying, and I'd have to focus. And I felt like I was depriving myself from stuff. And I actually felt like it was a lot of pressure when we would have like family stuff where we would have like desserts everywhere, and then it became stressful. And now I feel like when I do what you said, which is just slow down and tune in, and if my body wants a treat, giving myself that, like completely shifted this I can't have like victim-y place over my food. I feel that now I can eat more treats, but it feels easier to be healthier. How do you feel with that?
I do, and I can actually remember waking up in the morning and pumping myself up for what I was not going to eat that day. Yeah. Totally trying to fire myself up for, okay, today I'm not eating any chips. I'm not having any dessert. I'm just going to, And it was a struggle every day. For me, it was a willpower struggle every day that inevitably I was going to lose. There's only so amount of time, I think, that you can maintain that.
So I bet a lot of people hear that and they're like, I hear you. Mm-hmm. I'm in that too. That makes a lot of sense. But how do you cross the gap from not being in this willpower? I don't know if you have, maybe it's a big question to answer, but like what might be a first step that you had that allowed you to get off of that?
Well, our group meetings, our Zooms were very powerful for me in realizing that there were other people we were all in the same circumstances of having a battle with food in our bodies. And it was interesting that it was like, and there were some people that had far worse than I did, like there, and less. But we were basically all battling the same concept. And so gradually, as I learned to check in with my body, it allowed me almost to love my body more. And it's a practice. I mean, if you're going to be a good guitar player, you're going to practice. So if you're going to be mindful, it's a practice. And when I began practicing it, I noticed gains in it. So then I stayed in the program longer because it was benefiting me. I was in it a year, I believe, maybe even more. And the benefits kept coming for me, so it was worth it for me to be in it and keep practicing. I think when I don't practice, then I fall out and I can feel myself slipping when I don't. It's a practice.
Totally. I'm so glad that you said that, because a lot of people will say, oh, I can't listen to my body. I tried it. I can't do it. But they see it as like if you picked up a guitar and you're like, I can't play the guitar. No, duh, of course you can't. Like, our society trains us to not listen to our body. It's like we're trained for disembodiment, like coming up into our minds. We're told to like track our food, write our calories, follow a list of food rules. Like, everything is like pulling you away from your body, which is kind of crazy. You'd think like as kids or something, we would be taught to like listen to your body, or, don't finish your plate until you're done eating. It's like you're trained to not use your body to listen to, am I full? It's like you're trained to look at something visually, something outside of yourself. So a lot of people will say that, like, I can't listen to my body. And it really, truly does take a dedicated practice. Like, over time, anybody can build that trust if they're really willing to practice. So I love that you said that. So you started practicing and tuning in and listening to your body. Is there any other like skills that came up for you, or any like ahas or awarenesses?
Well, my experience, and the biggest one, was my relationship with alcohol and myself and wine. And I was a nightly wine drinker with dinner for sure, and then out doing my thing at night. So I remember actually cooking a chicken dinner. I always ate healthy, and I'm cooking my chicken dinner on the grill with asparagus and a salad, and I'm pouring a glass of wine with the dinner. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, let's check in with my body. Does my body want this glass of wine? And my body gave me a resounding no. If I can drop an F-bomb, it gave me a fuck no. Resounding. And so I put the bottle of wine down. I was like, well, tonight I'm just not going to have wine with dinner. And I checked in the next night, and it was like, no. My body was like, we eat pretty healthy, but this is the thing going on right now. And so it actually let me know once I bypassed here and checked in. And I was a total mind guy too. I believe that we are all programmed to be in our minds and be hardcore and not really ever learn how to check in with our bodies. It's something that's completely bypassed, I think, in our society.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so for now, 4.5 years later, I don't drink wine with dinner. I don't drink. And I've never said I quit. I just check in with my body, and it doesn't want it.
It's unbelievable, because you didn't say anything about temptation or willpower or craving.
No, there was nothing. There was none of that. In fact, it was the only thing that I did. I can remember 2 nights of having a big dinner with some friends, and steak and wine was a thing for me. But I think it was more of the sugar from the wine, because I had a couple pieces of dark chocolate would always take care of that if I did have any type of craving associated with it. So I do believe that it was more of a sugar thing than actually an alcohol thing. But when my mind and my body were harmoniously working with it, we were both, we don't want this right now. And so it has never come back. And I check in with it, because I'll take a sip of wine to taste Chris's and see if I like it, and then check in, like, do I want a glass of wine? And my body will tell me, nah, we just don't want it.
It becomes,
and so there's no willpower to it at all. There's no actual struggle. It's just, and I love wine. It's delicious.
Totally. Wine was one of the things with coffee that in the beginning you were like, I love red wine with dinner. I love coffee in the morning.
Absolutely.
I'll do this program as long as you don't take those away from me. And I was like, I won't tell you what to do. And then your homework assignment, check in with your body. And then you're just like, I just don't want it anymore. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm like, weird, And it's such a contrast, because of me being a dietitian, they teach us in school, you tell people what to eat and what not to eat. And all of my clients were rebelling like teenagers. They were like, of course, at first they were like, okay, just tell me what to eat. Tell me what not to eat, and I'll listen to you. But over time, no one wants to be told what to do. Mm-hmm. And it's like, actually, most of the health industry is really disempowering, because people are like, yeah, I want to get healthier, but I also don't want someone telling me what to do, which is why they continuously sabotaged it. And now it's so interesting to watch the contrast of before, when you were like giving yourself more, I don't know about if it's rules, or like you were really trying to force yourself to be healthy. That was like this willpower battle. And then when you didn't have any kind of rules or intensity, and you're like, oh, let me just check in with my body, all of a sudden it stayed consistent for 4.5 years without effort.
Yeah, very consistent. My mild struggles now, and they're mild, and I can feel it when I'm trying to revert into willpower, would be with sugar. Like if I go through the Christmas and start to eat some holiday treats, which I give myself permission to do. But I can feel when it starts to become willpower, then I know I have to check back into my mindfulness because I don't operate out of that anymore. Mm-hmm. So when it's trying to become that, my mind is trying to take that over. I just check back in with mindfulness and actually start checking with my body, and it falls back into line.
Wow. So that's when you kind of feel it starting to do that. You just like slow down and just start checking in with your body again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not that I tell it we can't have this anymore. It's like, it'll be here tomorrow. It's okay. If we don't today, it'll be here tomorrow. So let's just calm down.
Yeah. I feel like it is so much more of just like slowing everything down versus like, oh, nope, now I can't. And also like there's so much strength, like our own inner strength and power that comes when we give ourselves permission to be around the foods instead of avoiding them. And I remember one of the conversations that we had, I remember one of the times that you were talking about, oh, I had all these Girl Scout cookies and I asked you, I was like, what did you learn from that? And you were like, I'm throwing them away. And I was like, okay, you could. And I wonder what's going to happen when they're around you again. And the challenge was, what if you took those Girl Scout cookies and you set them right in front of you and like, really sat with that thing until nothing holds its power over you, that nothing has to be avoided. I don't know if you ever ended up doing that.
We did
or
that.
Not,
Yeah, I actually did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went like 3 days with them sitting on the table, and then I think I did throw them out. However, I was staying at a friend's house 3 weeks ago, and right near the bedroom where I'm staying, there's a table with a big pile of Girl Scout cookies on it. And I only had 2 the entire 2 weeks. I had 2 of them and then let them be. So
no way.
Yeah, since then, it's gone very great. Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like in the past for me, if I would have done something like that, it would be like, keep it out of the house. You can't trust yourself. And then as soon as they're around, it's like, well, you might as well because you finally get the chance again. And then it's just this constant disempowering cycle, versus just being with that thing that feels triggering and slowing down enough.
One thing that's fortunate for me, I don't know if it's like this for anyone else, but when I'm in the grocery store, I am really in a healthy flow and really checking in. So I can walk by anything, just the barrage we get at the grocery store of unhealthy stuff that's jumped out and put right in front of you. It's everywhere. And I'm really in flow in a grocery store, so it allows me not to bring too much of that stuff home. So I don't know. I'm not sure if people struggle at the grocery store and they're throwing in stuff, then they have to fight it at home, or how that, looks. But for me, it's easy to shop healthy at the store.
How did that happen? Or what are you actually doing that allows you to... You said I'm really in flow at the grocery store.
I don't let my mind run away with something. If I see a thing of ice cream, I just look at it. I'll even walk by donuts now and smell them and be like, I'm just going to appreciate them for what they are and smell them. And be like,
it's like smelling the roses, but you're smelling the donuts.
Amazing. The other day I was with Chris in the store. We're walking by, I go, hold on, I'm going to the donut section. And I just like looked at them and smelled them like, oh, you guys look great. And then I took off.
You guys look great.
They did. They look great. I picked all 9 of them out that I would eat if I could or if I wanted to. But I was like, nah, not today. But I might some other time.
Yeah, maybe some other time.
Other time.
I love like the casual internal feeling around that. If it's not like this, like never again. That's what trips us up, right?
That is the thing, right? It is not never again. Even no matter with what it is, it's not never again. I have the option.
Yeah, totally. Are there any other skills that you think that you use regularly? You mentioned slowing down, pausing, checking in with your body, just noticing when things start to maybe get a little bit on the mindless side. Is there anything else in particular?
I do find myself sometimes the pace that I eat, I have to practice that one, because I do find sometimes that I will sit down and eat too fast, or I don't sit down enough. So I find myself practicing that I'm going to actually sit down and slow down and enjoy the meal, which is powerful. I would say one of the most powerful things that we've been through is the conquering cravings, like deciphering when something's a craving or if I actually am hungry and I want that, and deciding what my body actually wants.
Yeah. How does that process look like for you? Can you?
Well, it'll usually start when my mind starts running away with a billboard or something that's a marketing thing, or seeing whatever that might be, somebody putting a piece of cake down in front of me, to let the mind go away and then realize that my mind's running away first, as a realization of like, oh yeah, This is what my mind does. And we're going to let it do it and listen to it, but I don't react on it. I don't act on it. I let it have its way and its little whatever it's doing, and then realize, okay, this is a craving. This is the thing. And then just take some time to breathe into it. And do I really want this or not? Like right now, it's okay if I really do want it. If it's in here and it's not just running up here. If I do really want dessert tonight, then yeah, I will go out and have dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really powerful that happens when you slow down and consciously choose it. And then you're empowered, and then you're savoring it more, and you're like in tune with how much you need, and there's no like fear. I think where people get in trouble is when they do indulge, but there's fear wrapped up in it of I won't have this again, and they're being driven by their cravings instead of really slow down and making like a conscious decision that is like, really in partnership with their body.
Absolutely, because then you have the power, not the food or the whatever it is, right? Like
Yes.
You're in the power, so it's easy, it's okay. And there's also a not guilt thing. If I do eat it, I'm not guilty ever anymore. If I eat it, I wanted it, and it's okay, and I'm not beating myself up the next morning or that night or however that looks. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Like not a guilt-free experience too. No matter what you do decide, that's your decision and go with it.
Yeah. I didn't really think about that. But now that I think about compared to how I used to approach health, so many times that I would go to bed just stewing over the guilt of what I ate and feeling like the food was controlling me instead of really feeling embodied and like powerful. And now I know if I'm going to indulge, like I'm just consciously choosing it. And there's
Right.
I don't feel powerless to the food. It's instead of like out here, it's like the attention is in here, and I'm slow and I'm choosing it, and it completely changes the experience. Same food, but totally different experience.
Completely. Mine would be in the morning. I would wake up thinking about it. I would wake up thinking about what I ate the night before and waging war on it that day. Like literally waging war in my own mind and like, that's it.
Yep.
I'm not eating this for 2 months.
I mean, we laugh at it because it is funny, but I think that's the only path that most people really know.
It is. I mean, that's what I knew. That's the only thing I knew was dieting and binging. So it was just a cycle.
It's hard because the solution that we're taught is like this outside-in approach that's like, get this food plan and force yourself to eat it. But like no one ever tells us that we have this power to just slow down and just say like, is this right for me right now? And there's like so much power of what you talked about by just slowing down and making just a conscious choice and like listening, tuning in a little bit more. And it just seems like everything balances out.
Yeah.
So,
and it's almost fun too to take your mind and look at it as a separate entity and let it have its little thing.
Yes.
Let it go on its train roll and let it talk about the sugar in the donut or the ice, whatever it might be that is your whatever you crave, and let it have its thing and like listen to it and be like, wow, that's really interesting.
Yes, I love that you said that.
That's such a story because that's really interesting.
I love that you brought that up because I do think that we have like there is so much power when you just create a little separation from your thoughts, and then it's like, oh, that's really funny, and you can kind of not be so drowning in the shame and the craving, and it's just like you can look at it and just be like, okay, what do I want to do with this now?
It's its own separate little thing, and you can kind of laugh at it and joke. But I listen to it. I don't seclude my mind out of anything. I allow it to be part of us too, in my mind and my body. But it is funny listening to it and then just exploring it after it's had its say,
I know. I started laughing about the same thing. I don't know if I ever told you this before, but one of my biggest challenges is when I would get stressed at work, and then that's when I would like get stuck, and then that's when I would have like a midday craving for something that I felt like I just like felt so powerless to food. And then I started listening to the voice in my head, and the voice literally sounded like I was dying. It was like, I need something. I need something. And I don't know how long this went on for, but eventually I started listening to the voice in my head, and I was like, wait, just because I'm stressed today and I'm overwhelmed, does this, like, the voice in my head was like I was dying. It was like, I need something. I need something. And it was almost became funny to listen to the voice in my head that was like, ship going down, panic, panic. We need food for protection. And just to be able to step back and be like, wait, is that true?
Is that even
and
close
to kind of start to laugh at it and be like, are we really dying right now?
My mind would be more of, I'm going to get my way because we had a great day, so we're going to celebrate with food.
Yeah.
We're going to go out and party with food. Or I had a horrible day. don't you feel sorry for me? Let's go out and do something with food. So there were all these reasons to, to actually not eat healthy.
Yeah.
A good day or a bad day. You're going to have one or the other, but the mind would always be like, wow, I deserve a treat. I worked so hard.
Yeah.
And to not base my eating on that, on a reward system.
Right. Because that does become really weird when you're like eating based off of like a reward system without even asking like, wait, but do I actually even want this?
Right. Right. Nope, we worked hard. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. Or like I'll eat all of this food right now because I'm not going to have it on Monday. Is like I'm eating it now because I can't have it in the future. But like, did I even consider, do I even want it right now? It's like this weird compensation. I don't know. It just gets really weird.
Right. Well, think about dieting to go on vacation. And then the day you go on vacation, you start binge eating because you're on vacation. And so all that work is
and we
just
deserved
gone.
it.
So you just do all that to actually unravel it by the week that you're in Mexico or Florida, wherever you might.
Well, and I remember us saying like, because we deserve it. We work so hard. Oh, indulge, you're on vacation. But then I would end up feeling so awful. And then I started to ask myself, is my vacation better because I ate everything and I overate and I binged because I was on vacation? Like, did I experience more pleasure and more joy and more anything? And I was like, no, not at all. And it's interesting how the idea of deserving or indulgence actually just didn't even feel good. Mm-hmm. But we still indulge.
And we could tie that into family gatherings, right? Yeah. How it's all based on too much food, or many families are based it just on too much food instead of the actual experience of family. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
I think we used to do that quite a bit. Just the bigger the spread, the better the holiday felt. But that really wasn't a truth when you experience it now. For me, it wasn't a truth anyway.
Right. And I think we still love good food. Like,
yes.
We love good food.
Yes.
But there's just a different experience of it, I think, when you can eat some and not have any fear wrapped up and then move on because you know that you can eat good food again.
Yeah. I still eat French fries with my steak when I go out for a steak.
Don't tell me that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Absolutely. It's got to be French fries with my steak. But that's okay.
So, all right. So it's okay. And you still indulge. You still love to have good food. What are some of like the shifts that you've noticed now?
In like what area? What can you give an example?
In anything with like how you internally feel with the relationship with yourself or with your health or like.
Well, I would say right now I am literally so far into it that my mind and my body, my heart, and really my spirit are all operating at a great level of wanting to be healthy. And there's it's just a really smooth flow of just my body wanting more healthy stuff and my mind allowing it. And the knowledge that I have also that comes with the Institute, just the nutrition knowledge that I have now, and realizing the further I care about my body, the less important it is to have the unhealthy stuff. It just isn't that important to eat it all the time. Mm-hmm. To where I consider it, a problem or negative health for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you experience any of those cycles that you had before?
A little bit, but really mild, and I'm aware of them when they begin, so I can actually drop into practicing, and it keeps it. I don't know, I might gain 5 pounds in a winter, maybe. I don't know. I don't really track. Another thing was like we just don't use scales anymore, really. Mm-hmm. I got on one about 2 weeks ago for the first time since I moved to Utah, so 2.5 years. I got on a scale for the first time just to see where my body is settled in at. It's 177 pounds. Yeah. With no dieting, no effort of anything, just that's where my body is settled into.
Wow.
Yeah, you should see this with no shirt on.
I know.
Kidding.
You should have done that.
Kidding.
It would have been great. We could have oiled you up.
Tool belt, cowboy hat.
That's weird. Too far. And I also remember when you were excited that you were saying that like you went and checked in with your doctor, and your doctor was like, your blood pressure is like awesome, like incredible.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, I mean, my stats are good and I feel amazing. At 63, I just feel them. I actually feel the best my body's ever been in tune in my entire life right now. And I'm 63. I can honestly say that. I feel so strong and more agile than I've ever been, and the entire thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm operating on all 8 cylinders right now. It's
wow.
great. That's the engine components.
I was going to say, that's a man thing to say. I'm not sure I don't know what that means, but I trust you. That
you guys, good. You'll know. You're with me.
8 cylinders. Great.
It's like
I love that.
You got a full bouquet of roses. You didn't get 5.
Okay.
You got 12. You got a dozen roses.
We need at least 12.
You got 12.
Okay, so if anybody was out there and they're just like, man, I am just going through those cycles of like, I'm starting a thing and then I'm off of it. Do you have any advice for if somebody was just like, man, I don't even know what to do or what could be possible? Do you have any advice for people who are starting a journey?
Well, I would say if you're open to an exploration of a different type of being healthy, then definitely the Mindfulness Institute, but it's open to practicing a different type of mindset. And if you're willing to look at the mindset shifts, then the changes in your body will come with it.
Going deeper.
In my opinion, go deeper than just a diet. It's so much deeper than a diet. It's your relationship with yourself. And actually I had to learn to trust myself that, like you said, early on in the program, I was just going to throw away cookies. I'm like, I can't have them in the house. I'm going to throw them away. Now I don't have to do that. I can literally stand in front of a donut stand and check them all out and be like, yeah, see you guys later. And I love donuts.
Or eat them mindfully.
Yeah, and I will sometimes. But most of the time, like when I really check in, that's not what my body's asking for. I remember being so excited the first time. My routine would be driving up north and stopping at West Branch and getting a coffee, even though I'd already had 2 or 3 halfway on my trip. It was my routine. And I remember checking in my body like, all right, do I want this coffee? And my body wanted a bottle of water and an apple. This is what I walked out with. And I went in to get a coffee. And I remember I called you. It felt great. I was so excited. I called you. I was like, wow, this is amazing. My body told me it wanted water. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. And an apple. I walked out with an apple.
Look at that. And so did it feel that simple to pick up that message? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, how did your body tell you that? Like, what does it mean that your body told you? Was it like...
It's a strange thing to explain because it seems like you're thinking it, but it's not. It's actually when you just let it come, you don't have to think like, I want a bottle of water. You just explore and feel into your body, like just feel it. And it just will come up that, no, I'm dehydrated. You've had coffee this morning. Like it will tell you, I'm dehydrated. Let's have some water.
Yeah.
And it just comes to you as a thought. It's, I don't know any way to explain it.
It is a weird thing that this is going to be such a new concept for most people because every animal on the planet, like other animals don't study nutrition and what they should and shouldn't eat. They have this innate ability to eat what they're supposed to eat. And why would we not be built with that? And it gets confusing, but we forget that we have access to this whole wisdom available to us. And I remember hearing one time somebody share that squirrels will, before they ever have their first winter, let's say it's born in the spring, it will go and gather its nuts and seeds and bury it for the winter before it's ever had its first winter. And that is why the squirrel can survive, because it trusts its intuition. It might not say, oh, I've ever seen snow. It wouldn't consciously make sense. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why would I bury these seeds? But it will do that and trust its own instincts so that it can survive. And it's amazing that they're born with these instincts, and we are too. We're just not used to trusting it.
Mm-hmm. I would say, too, that a squirrel's life is not as hectic as ours. So when we have the ability to actually slow our life down, where we don't have to be rushed to go through a fast food thing, because I notice sometimes when I start picking my life up too fast, that's when I'll look at a fast food and go, oh, I just don't have time, so today I'm going to do that. And I'm like, no, I got to make time. I have to make time for me. So as opposed to just following what everyone else is doing and being in a rush and driving in and out in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's actually been one of my favorite things to hear you say was like when you started sharing that normally your work days would just be so jammed and so busy. And then you would slow down and stop and say, like, what does my body start needing? Mm-hmm. And from a core level, like how deeply healing that probably would be for a lot of people to slow down and just say, wait, how do I take care of me first in this moment? And like how health can just evolve naturally from that kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, actually, another thing that you and I discussed was waking up in the morning and actually making my health a priority for the day, not what was on my to-do list. So it was actually, hey, how does it sound if you actually put your health in a priority and what that's going to look like, and then follow up with what, is coming. And that was powerful.
Do you think that's realistic for people to do?
It happened for me, and I own a business, so I was able to do it. And that was really a hectic life I was leading, like really unhealthy, hectic. I would say that was probably the core of my unhealthiness, because I would go till 3 or 4 o'clock without eating. I'd get up and get right to it and not eat all day, and then overeat, and then just use the stories of, wow, I worked hard today, so I'm going to have a glass of wine and I'm going to eat some chocolate thing or whatever made me feel good at the time for just 10 minutes. It would make you feel good for while you're eating it, and then it was over.
Yeah.
So that was probably the core, I would guess, looking back to most of my unhealthiness, was the pace my life was, not allowing myself to slow down and eat a healthy meal and take a walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost seems like too simple.
It's so simple.
It's so simple,
but we're
right?
programmed not to be that way. We're programmed to, oh no, we
Make it
go,
hard.
this is what we do. Yeah. We go after it.
I know. That's what I think trips up people the most, is they're like, but wait, this feels too easy. Like just slowing down and tuning in and being intentional and taking care of myself and saying I matter enough to take care of myself. That feels like a trick.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like a trick, but it's so powerful. So is there anything else that you really want to leave with people?
Let me think about that for just a couple of seconds. I would say I'm living it. It's possible no matter where you're at in your life or at the moment, because I was looking back on it, way unhealthier life than I thought. I thought the overworking out was making up for the unhealthy habits. And it really wasn't. Looking back on it, was probably more unhealthy. So I would say that it's actually possible to live a really smooth, healthy relationship with food. Like I'm doing it now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it takes practice.
And I have so much gratitude.
But it takes practice.
It takes practice, like anything. It is a practice. And for me, it was, I'm not really a great student either. So the teachables for me weren't at the forefront. It was more about coming to the Zooms and what I learned from that and the checking in. And then after 6 months, I kind of reached a point where I felt like I wasn't making any more progress. And so then I decided to delve into the teachables.
Yeah, the videos.
And for me, it worked great. Yeah, your videos on different ways to handle cravings and all that information. And then so me, it was a great follow-up to take me through the next part and keep me in tune with it until now it's a practice for me. It's just a practice that I live with. And it's easy for me now.
Amazing.
It's natural. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing your story.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
I think you guys probably got a lot of valuable stuff. What I really heard the most was that a lot of your power was really in just slowing down and pausing, being able to trust tuning in and asking, what does my body need? Checking in to see, am I really hungry? Is this a craving? And really just practicing and allowing it to naturally evolve based on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really pertinent is that there's many, many small wins that add up to a health thing. There's not one massive big, I'm doing this and it's all going to happen at once. For me, it's now been 4 years, but I keep growing in that aspect. I keep becoming more mindful and I keep feeling better. And the better I feel, the more mindful I become. And it's just great, just feeding off of itself now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when we can celebrate every little tiny micro shift and micro win, that builds up the mountain of a life that becomes a lifestyle.
Completely.
You don't quit.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation with my dad. It was amazing, a lot of good wisdom and golden nuggets from his experience. And I hope you're left more inspired today. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.